No, I think Secretary Duffy is trying to be proactive and get ahead of things rather than being reactive and letting things accumulate to a point of a safety concern. So I do tip my hat off to him for looking ahead and being proactive. So I thought that was a smart move. But I don't deal in politics. I'm an air traffic controller. I deal in safety. So it doesn't matter if we have 25 aircraft in our airspace or 2 aircraft. We're going to bring our A game in order to make sure the flying public is safe. So that's all we care about in air traffic. But if
a quick bounce question to you, Jack.
Yeah.
And then I want to hear what you have to say. But so I just want to be clear. You haven't seen that a lot of people aren't showing up where you are because they're working other jobs or whatever it is. You think people are basically still showing up and the staffing is where it's supposed to be?
Sick leave is up just a tad, just because people are probably managing anxiety. I took a little time off because I was managing anxiety, but people aren't taking grossly more sick leave than not because they love what they do. They want to be there. They want to provide this service to the flying public.
Now, what'd you want to say, Jack? You had something you wanted to weigh in on.
I absolutely do. I just want to say that we're not political pawns. And I also want to say that we also aren't the only federal employees that are struggling right now. The tension is growing, and it's not exponential, but it's on the daily. Anticipation of getting paid is a big deal. We have brand new people in this agency that do not have the financial leverage to float the bills. A young man talked to me today and said he wanted to go to school in December, and he's unable to enroll because he doesn't have the money. The political gamesmanship is actually causing real life pain on real people, and it's a very, very bad look on these great United States.
Pain to everybody except the people causing it, right? So, Chris, thank you for listening. What's your take on what you hear from Jack and what you think is going on here?
He's spot on. He's spot on. Look, this is all done in the name of safety. That's why we saw the delays happening. They were slowing the system down again because, it isn't. These guys are working their tails off, and they're working their tails off with extended overtime, and they're under a lot of anxiety. So they slow the system down to ensure the safety. And now, as the pressure builds, as we come into those holidays, what we saw last weekend was, a lot of pressure on Halloween night going into Saturday and Sunday. So what Secretary Duffy is saying, look, we're going to mandate, the government's going to mandate 4% of cancellations this weekend, rolling up to 10% of cancellations by next Friday to do just what Jack said, to kind of preventively take pressure off of the system, take more blips, if you will, off of the screens for these controllers that are working their tails off. So the system is safe. People should know that. They should know that when they're going and flying, no airline pilots getting in a plane and flying a plane if they thought it was unsafe. That's not the case at all. They're being very preventative to ensure that safety. But these guys are pawns, right? And as Jack mentioned, it's not just the air traffic controllers. You got TSA agents. These guys are making $30,000, $40,000 a year. They're living paycheck to paycheck. They're showing up. God bless them. And every time you walk through a TSA line, you should thank every single one of those folks for what they're doing. And yes, we see some sick time here and there, but just as Jack said, a lot of it's because of stress. It isn't just one sector. You don't see mass call-outs per se. We watch the numbers daily, and you see it kind of blips all over the place, right? So you're not sure where it's going to pop up. You have better days and worse days, but the consistency of those worst days where the delays are getting longer, the pressures are getting higher. It's one thing to ask these folks to do this for 2 or 3 weeks, but now we're going on 5, 6, maybe even 7 or 8 weeks to keep asking them to do this under these high stress for the political gamesmanship, as you pointed out at the top of the show. It's absolutely irresponsible. And I don't care what party you're from. I don't care what party you're from. I don't care what the bill looks like. Whatever the next bill is, vote for that one, because that's your job, right? You've made your political points.
I'm with you.
Neither of you have gone very far in it, but you got to vote for the next bill, whatever it is.
I'm with you, but you were also a governor, and that's why you don't think about it as a legislator. You think about somebody who's going to be accountable for it, and these guys aren't. That's why they're not thinking the same way you are. But, Jack, you're not a politician, but I want you to judge this political analysis that I'm going to ask Chris to do right now. The reason we tee this up is because Duffy says it is about them dropping off. Now, I'm not trying to get you to go against Duffy. It's a different point. My suspicion was this is a play like SNAP. And that's what I wanted to ask you, Criss. As you know, Jack, Criss was a governor, and I've known him for a long time. He was a good governor, and they loved him up there. He's term limited out. Gov, the idea of what the administration is doing with SNAP right now, in defiance of the courts and in the defiance of their own practices, and the president told us why. I want to force the Democrats to reopen the government, so I'm not going to do what the court is telling me to do, even though the poor are going to pay. Would you ever entertain doing that?
As a governor, look, I'm actually quite cautious about using. If you start using reserve funds, right, that's going to be the go-to. Right? No one's going to feel the pressure. We are going to disagree hard on this. I don't mind what's going on because the system is not designed for the president to arbitrarily decide when funds are going to be used and when they shouldn't be used and what happens when they run out right before Christmas. We're back right where we started again, and Jack and all the guys that he works with are now dealing with all the Christmas pressures and all that sort of thing. So you got to be careful about just saying, well, we have a couple extra bucks, just throw it at them. I thought like 2 weeks ago we heard no kings. You know, Trump shouldn't have all this authority. Oh wait, you have the authority. Go use it, right? So the system is designed for Congress to have the power of the purse, to be the responsible ones and move it forward. So I just, no matter what the program is, whether it's health care benefits or SNAP benefits or whatever, just to dip into your reserves arbitrarily, if we're going to do that, then what do we need Congress for at all? By the way, we do need Congress because that's the system and the foundations of the system are good. But you know what I'm saying? When does it stop if you're just going to start dipping into the purse arbitrarily?
I get the concept. I get the concept with one point of pushback, and then we'll put it to Judge Jack. It is not the same as no kings. This is reckless expansion of the executive. This is about the agency. The agency is allowed to use the reserve funds. They've said it themselves. The GAO has said it. And in the last shutdown, the Trump administration said nothing when the agency used reserve funds to help poor people not get nothing for the duration of the shutdown. That's what this is about. And he's saying, no, I won't let the agency do what it did last time because I want to make a different political play right now. That's okay with you?
No, look, again, he put some of the funds out. Like most of these SNAP benefits should have run out 2 weeks ago, right? So he put, yes,
no,
he put
they didn't go out.
The funds.
No, he said he was going to put some out, and then he didn't.
Right. So again, I'm not going to get into the politics of what the White House is doing, but again, these reserve funds are. He's going to do it for a couple weeks, and then we're going to do it for a couple weeks, and then see if Congress gets their act together over the. But there's so many other bigger issues here, right? You still got Jack, you still got the airline industry, you still got the TSA, you still have all of America being held hostage on this process. So it's a small piece of the puzzle, and I think to say, well, if you just move the SNAP benefits out, everything would be fine. No, it's an important piece, but it is a small piece of the process here. And again, get back to the point of. Who's saying no? Who has said no 14 times to funding the airline industry, not the industry itself, but the TSA workers, the air traffic controllers, all this goes away by just doing what they've always done before, which is move forward on a clean CR. So I think that's the point here. Why are we changing precedent all of a sudden? Because these guys decide not to do their job.
Well, both sides have done exactly this. They just never get anything out of it except hurting other people. That's the part that pisses me off.
That's right.
So, Jack,
that's right.
So as you observe, Criss and I don't agree, even though we're both named the same thing and oddly wearing the same thing, although he looks like he could be my son, which bothers me because he's like getting younger every time I see him. But you notice I obviously like him and have tremendous respect for him, even though we don't agree, right? Which is what NewsNation is all about. Now, when you hear that conversation, what does it lead you to conclude about what's happening with this shutdown?
So listen, I grew up on Section 8 poverty. Section 8, literally. I grew up on what we call food stamps in my day. If it weren't for food stamps or Section 8, you guys wouldn't be looking at me right now. So I believe in the system from a fundamental standpoint. Again, let me reiterate, I would not be here right now if it weren't for the system. I would have grown up on the streets and did what I had to do. I would have been in jail. So the only reason why I have a bit of success is because somebody cared enough in order to give my mom, who she had a good heart, but she didn't do what she had to do in order to help us make it financially. So the government intervened and helped out with the rent and the food. And trust me, it wasn't luxury. We were in the hood, and lights were off. So I'm here right now telling you, I had a young man enter my office yesterday with a ton of anguish in his heart. Air traffic controller just got in July, and he was thinking about literally quitting. If this thing goes beyond Thanksgiving, he will not still be employed. We had somebody leave in October. I've been thinking about what I would do if I had to do what I had to do if it weren't for Chris Cuomo, this guy right in front of me, and DoorDash. Literally, I would be literally considering doing something else because that's what I have to do. We are real humans. We can't play these political games. We are going to do what we have to do in order to make it. And again, if it weren't for this gentleman in front of me, I would literally be considering moving on to something else. You helped me with a little financial balance in order to bridge the gap, so I can still persevere through this storm. But other people literally don't have that luxury of a Chris Cuomo.
All right, Jack, listen, I appreciate your perspective. I told you 100 times, helping you was easy. You're doing what's hard. You're doing the job. You're making it all work. You made that amazing daughter. So you're a good investment, put it that way. But thank you for your perspective. I appreciate it. Gov Sununu, always a pleasure. Thank you for helping me understand it from your perspective. We'll keep talking. Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.